Hello, my friends. Welcome to a special island hopping edition of the Party Nerds Popcast. I'm Richard Gabai with my partner in crime, Robert Carradine.
Hello.
And today, well, we're down under too. We are joined by the iconic legend, Mr. Robert Hayes. Robert Hayes, welcome.
It's good to see you. Good to see you, Bobby, and nice to meet you, Richard, even though it's over the airwaves.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I mean, when you're in the iconic projects that you're in, people like me feel like we know you already.
Yeah, I know. Years ago, when I first got up to LA and I was just beginning to work, but I was at a party over in the valley at a friend's and I saw a guy and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was looking at me like, "Yeah, well, I'm fine." And, then went off to get something. I was thinking, gosh, I, did I go to school with him? I know him. I'm positive. And then I realized, oh, he's in a commercial that I'd seen 1,000 times. And I thought I knew him very well, but that's the way we are. We come into people's houses.
Exactly.
Hey, I got to ask you this. Where do you live? Where is this spot?
We came over here about 4.5 years ago. And after the fires, since we were just vagabonds, we said, shoot, we could do this in Hawaii. So we came over 4.5 years ago. We went to Oahu for the first couple of weeks. We landed here. And then after 3 weeks, we went to Kauai for 2.5 months, for Maui for 3 months, Big Island for 2 months. And then we wound up back on Oahu. So we're on the windward side, the east side, where all the winds, the onshore winds come blowing. And that's what you were just looking at.
Yeah, that's absolutely, that image is just seared into my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. We've been in this house for about a year and a half about.
I think it's working out. Me and Bobby and I are just sitting here going,
Where did we go wrong?
Exactly.
You've been on everything. You hosted Saturday Night Live, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it was after the original cast. It was the second cast. And we had really great people. Charlie Rocket was just funny as hell. Got in too much trouble and got kicked off finally. But Gilbert Gottfried was on it for a bit. He was on the show I did, and Eddie Murphy was on it, and I mean a whole bunch of people. Gosh, people I can't even think of right now, but they were great. But it was compared to the first one, which was iconic, and so it was a little difficult. The funny thing about it was I had a sketch. I started out the show with a sketch on the phone, and I was over playing with the audience, talking to them, and they were laughing, and we were all having a good time. And then they said, "Okay, Robert, places." And so I said, "Okay." And I said, I'll see you guys later." And I went back up and I got over to the couch and there's no phone. And I turned to the floor director, Joe Dixo. They call him Joe Disco. And I said, "Joe," I said, "where's the phone?" And he kind of real lazy. He kind of said, "Where's Robert's phone?" And nobody said, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." And I said, "I got to have a phone." He says, "Oh, well, just do it without it." And I said, "What? It starts with me on the phone. How am I supposed to action?" And I was like this. And I thought, what the fuck do you do? I had no idea. It started off a total disaster. And I started wandering around the room saying, God, I got to call my friend. Shoot, too bad my phone's broken. I wish I could, if I had the phone, what would I say? And I just started making up stuff. It was a total wreck. And the thing was, they said that when you host the show, we're gonna do a show in front of the audience, and it's a rehearsal, dress rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be pissed off they didn't get into the main show, so it's going to be a terrible audience. But don't let that throw you. Well, they were a great audience. I mean, we had a great time. And then we do the regular show, and they screw up the props and everything, and it was just like you start off on the wrong foot, and then you're trying to get your shoelaces untied for the whole rest of the show.
Oh, God.
But it wound up having some fun things in it, but it was very silly. So yes, I did host Saturday Night Live, and thanks for reminding me. What a horrible.
Robert moved to Hawaii to forget all of this nonsense
That's
and to
right.
detoxify. And the first thing I do is bring up that. To me, it's just so, and I promise, and we all, and I've been, hovering just above obscurity in this business for 35 plus years myself. And, we see things that the audience doesn't see, and I doubt anybody noticed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, well, because I mean, even with if things are hit and miss on a Saturday Night Live episode, that's kind of standard. But you are a charming guy in a big hit movie. I got to know how did that happen? I mean, Airplane is a cultural phenomenon. So how did that come around for you? Where were you in your career? Or how did you get introduced to that project?
Well, I hadn't done. I was doing guests, and I did a pilot, and then I was doing a series called Angie, and my agent had a woman come join his office as a new agent named Beth Voicu, and she'd worked with Howard Koch. Now they had cast Julie. They'd been all over the country looking for the Elaine and Ted Stryker, but in New York they saw Julie, and that was it. They said, "Oh my God, she's perfect." But where are we going to find Ted Stryker? And they were in Dallas, Chicago, Seattle, Minneapolis, New York, LA. They were all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And she called up Howard and said, "I got your Ted Stryker." And he said, "Great, bring him in." So she took me with her, and we went over there, and I met Howard and the boys, Jerry and David Zucker and Jim Abrams, we call them the boys. And we all got along great. And then I read for them, and they liked my reading. And then they said, "Let's test him with Julie." So they put the two of us together, and they liked the screen test. And so that was it.
That is a great story, man. I love that they went all over the country. Doesn't that make you feel good, man?
Well, they had people, uh, Bruce, when she was Bruce Jenner, uh, Bruce, he was hammering them. He went in and met with them, and he came back over and over and over. He really wanted that role. He really wanted it. They had, uh, oh shoot, what's his name? And he's a singer. He's got a residency in Las Vegas. Did all the jingles and everything, but then oh shoot.
Barry Manilow.
Exactly. Thank you.
Barry Manilow.
Well done.
And they wanted
Yeah.
him to do it. The studio.
I am stuck on band-aids and band-aids are stuck on me. He's one of the greatest performers of all time, I'll tell you that. But I don't see him in Airplane.
But he was like an amazingly huge, successful jingle writer.
Mm-hmm.
He did all those jingles, and then he just started writing songs. I think he wrote some for Bette Midler, accompanying her or whatever, but then he did his own and became the Barry Manilow everybody knows. So they thought that would be a huge, we've got Barry Manilow.
Well, at the time, he was all over the radio. I remember all that. Yeah.
Well, if that's who they wanted, why didn't they get him? They hadn't met you yet, right?
How the boys said, Howard, this isn't right. Because they didn't have any really power, they were brand new. They'd never directed a movie before. And they said, "Howard, what are we going to do?" And he said, "Leave it to me." So he went to Manilow's manager, and whatever his name is, Fred or Moisha or whatever. And he says, "So Barry's interested in it." And he says, "Well, I think I can talk him into it. He's a little unsure about it, but I think I can talk him into it." He says, "Yeah." He said, "I just want you to know, I know Barry makes a ton of money, and we have nothing to offer financially for this. It's also probably, not going to be that great of a movie. And I know that when Barry does a film, you want the very first one to really be something. And so I'm just telling you, this is between us."
Ah,
And so by the time he left, the manager's going, "Whoa, thanks, Howard. Thank you very much for telling me all this." Goes back and says, "Barry, I don't think this is the right thing for us to do." So they escaped that one. But Yeah.
That is absolutely
That
nuts.
yeah, it's
And I
so
say
Hollywood.
that as an unashamed Fanilow. I'm a huge Barry Manilow fan,
Oh
but
yeah.
that would have ruined. That might have ruined two careers. I
You know,
mean,
you have an iconic movie like Airplane, and you hear that story, and you're like, "Oh my God, they came so close to ruining it."
one of the genius part of the genius in casting you is that the audience feels that you're an everyman. We all identified with you, and that wouldn't have happened with Barry Manilow.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you never can tell. The first person that they had for the co-pilot, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right, plays the co-pilot.
Right.
The first person they had in mind was Pete Rose. And then they thought, well, wait a minute, we're going to be filming this around October, and Pete Rose is always in the playoffs. So we're going to have a hard time getting him to,
If LeBron James would have the same sense of humor, you know, like to take on that role, that was courageous of Kareem to do it. So
well,
awesome.
he's so quiet. He's just very shy and very quiet. And I remember all these people are going up to him on the first day we were filming and introducing themselves. And I thought, I'm sitting in a chair for the first time ever. I got my name on a chair, and this is so cool. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm, like one of the stars of the show. I should be able to go say hi to him, I think. Couldn't I?
Right.
And so I went over, and I was about 6'2", close to 6'2". And I walk up and I'm looking at a belt buckle right here, and it was astounding. I'd never been next to someone that tall. I'd just seen on TV, but I'd never seen anybody right next to me that tall. And the normal thing people say is, "Hey, how's the weather up there?" That kind of stuff. And he told me that people used to come up to him when he was in college and high school and college, and they would say that, and it just hurt him so much because he was so self-conscious, and as he grew up, and he just hated that. And I said, "Ooh," as I was just about to say something like that, so uh, we talked, and we're the same age, and so we've got things that we were talking about that we knew of, and he's really, really very thoughtful, and he's a real decent guy and a really, really nice guy. But you don't really know that because he's got that wall that he puts up. He's really let it down a lot. And I think one of the big parts of that is Airplane. I think it's made him not take himself so seriously and not take life so seriously.
It's funny you talking about how tall he is, because I used to collect old time Colts and Winchesters, and so did Kareem. And there was a store that I would sell my guns at, and he would sell his at. And the store owner says, "Why don't you guys just talk to each other? Because you're buying his guns and you're buying his." I said, "Yeah, that sounds pretty cool." So he invited me up to his place for lunch, and I went up there. He lived in Bel Air, and we're sitting at this table, and the chairs, it looks like that show that Lily Tomlin did where her feet don't even touch the ground. That was the chair I was sitting in, okay? And he finally gets up and he says, I love that I have the view, from downtown LA all the way to Malibu, and all I see is a hedge.
That's right. Yeah, where is it?
You got this movie, and then, I'm the age that. How old? When did it come out? 1980? Yeah, so
July 2nd,
I
1980.
I was in high school. I graduated high school in 82. So that was the movie that educated and made us laugh our butts off. It was so iconic. I don't know that, maybe it's my age, but it doesn't seem like there's cultural phenomenons like that too often from a movie. So how did that was it a game changer for you? Did it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like winning the lottery. I didn't realize it at the time, but to me, it was just like, wow, it's really cool.
So did you guys stick to the script pretty much, or was there a lot of ad-libbing?
Stick to the script exactly. They
Wow.
rewrote that so many times. They had that rejected, and they'd come back and rewrite and then submit it again and be rejected. probably for 5 years maybe, and it was so tight. The o- Steve Stucker played Johnny,
Okay.
crazy one. He was in their Kentucky Fried Theater group,
Right.
so flamboyant and so out there that they would call him up and say, Stephen, we got a line right here. What would Johnny say? Oh, I could make a hat. I could make a brooch. I could make it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like a big Tylenol. So he came up with those things because they had no idea how a mind like that works. No one does. So they would, the only other thing really, Al White, uh, Al told me that they came up to him and they said to the boys, they said, "Do you mind if we rewrite this?" Because they said, "Please, we're three white guys from Milwaukee. Please, we don't know." Because all they wrote was she mofo, she mofo. That was it. And so they got a dictionary. Al told me they had like a dictionary of black jive and ebonics and all of this, and they came up with their own routine. And uh, so that's where all of that came from. And then they taught that to,
Oh, Barbara Billingsley.
yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, the original role, I mean, the original actor they wanted for that was Harriet Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
She and I, when she met me, I went over to say hello to her and introduce myself, and she was the sweetest thing in the world. And she said, "Oh, I was offered that role, and I'm so sorry I didn't take it. But the language kind of it bothered me a little bit. Oh, I'm so sorry I didn't do it." So either way, I mean, it's like a can't miss kind of a thing. But Barbara was so great. Everything that I could think of, all the rest of it was all right to the word. And they wanted it serious. That was one of the secrets to their success. They didn't want it, hey, look at me, I'm being funny. They wanted us to do it really seriously, which is the way I really enjoyed that. And I kind of had applied that to things that I had done when I was studying and doing the small theater and, college and community theaters and stuff. And I had kind of come across that on my own, but they really clarified it more for me. So,
Well, when we did Revenge of the Nerds, uh, the first day's dailies, the guys all went in to watch the dailies. I wouldn't go in there because I did not want to see myself as that character. It would have freaked me out. So they come out of the dailies and they go, we get it. I go, what? You're playing it straight. I said, yeah, these guys don't know they're nerds. And
that's right.
it's exactly what you just went through on Airplane. They don't know.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Well,
I noticed guys that you'd watch the performance and on stage, you'd see it too. It's like they have an astral projection outside themselves and they're saying to the audience, look at this, huh? It's funny, isn't it? And my astral projection was looking at the audience like, what are you laughing at? This is serious stuff, which made
funny.
it kicked it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm dying to know when they had the cast and crew screening, what was that experience like?
It, it was it was great. There was one at the DGA. I think this might have been the one. It was at the DGA. I had my folks there. My dad was 6'3". He was a big, tall Marine. He was a fighter pilot. He was in World War II in Korea and Vietnam and Distinguished Flying Cross and was in Guadalcanal and serious guy. And my mom's 5'2" and just this little Irish, Norwegian Irish leprechaun kind of cute thing that the world always fell in love with. She was just the neatest little thing. And so, but they were like this, they were like me and Donna Pescow and Angie. They were just like that. And we were standing there, and Peter Graves was there, and I thought, oh, maybe they'd like to meet Peter. So I said, Peter, I'd like you to meet my folks. And I said, this is my dad, John and Evelyn Hayes, and this is Peter Graves. And they say, how do you do? And it immediately, you say, how do you do? Oh, great. Nice to meet you. Good. And then it's awkward silence because that's it. I mean, what else do you talk about? So I turned to him and I said, Peter, how you doing? And he said, "Oh, I've been doing great. I've been feeling really good. Kind of hankering for little boys lately." And I looked at my dad and my mom, and my mom was kind of like, "What?" And my dad was like, Excuse me?" And I said, wait till you see the movie. You'll understand what you're talking about." So we go in and we see it, and as we're watching the movie, the the theater was insane. I mean, their laughter was nuts. But right in front of me was somebody cackling and laughing so loud. I mean, I was going to reach up and say, "Hey, can you hold it down a little? I can't hear you. We're trying to hear the movie." And it was very stupid, but I fortunately didn't do that. But anyway, when the lights came up and I saw it was Bette Midler, I went, "Oh,"
Good
I
thing.
didn't say anything.
And the sequel, the second airplane movie, came pretty quickly after it. Would you do something in between, or?
All of a sudden, here I am with a stack of 10 or 20 scripts, and they say, "Pick the one you want to do." And I went, "What?"
Huh.
"Just pick the one you want to do." And so I didn't know how you do that. I just started reading them. So after that, I did like 20 some odd movies, and I just starred in all of them. And it was like, this is fun. When I would go up and I'd say, um, I got a I got a question here. And you think, when you're doing two lines on a show, you said, "I got a question. What do you want? Get back over there. We got to shoot this thing." And all of a sudden they're saying, "What is it, Robert? What would you like to, what is it? Oh, yeah. Hey, can we get this for Robert? Can we?" And you think, good God, what is this? This is kind of cool. I mean, it's really that whole superficial, weird thing in the business that after a while you realize you're actually being molded into a pile of, you know, twisted who knows what. But it's fun at the time. It's really, really fun.
That reminds me of how do you tell the difference between a brown nose and a shithead? Depth perception.
Perfect. Perfect.
Robert, I think I could be mistaken, and it would not be the first time, but I actually think we did meet briefly through who I believe is our mutual friend, Gary Sinise.
Oh,
Is that possible? I think so, like at the library or one of the events he does for the troops. So I remember, I remember it, but you would not remember me because I think I shook your hand really quickly, and it was probably a gape at meeting one of my favorite movie stars. It was mentioned, which I look at me and I look at you now, and I don't know what you're thinking. They're saying, you could play Robert Hayes' son. You could play Robert Hayes' brother. That's what a couple of casting people said to me. Because you're probably starring in everything. 20 movies in a row.
Well, Gary is just one of the most amazing guys I've ever met in my life. I told him one time, I said, I have no idea how you've done it. You've actually changed physics because he gets more accomplished in one day. I said, it's like you've made one 24-hour day actually be 27 hours long. I don't know how you do that. And he laughed and just told me how he started, when he was a kid in Chicago. Just he wasn't the best baseball player on the block, but he's the guy that called everyone and said, "Let's get a game together." I said, "So you started being a producer when you were a little kid?" And he said, "Yeah, basically." But he's got the biggest heart. He's got the most talented guy.
Being one of the greatest talents in the business to being one of the greatest humanitarians in the world.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
dude.
And his son Mac was my son's like best friends, and he was his drummer in the group they had.
Oh man. So I just because I'm a little selfish, I remember going
Well,
to the
gee,
movies.
Richard, it sure is good to see you again.
Hey, it's great to see you again, Robert. I looked and saw that you and I have a producer in common. I actually made 7 movies with him. We both worked with the legendary Steve Austin. You were in The Retrievers and The Santa Trap.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I made Motocross Kids and Pop Star, and what else did I make? Miracle Dogs. Anyway, so one of the things that Bobby and I, there's 2 things, and think about it for a second, or tell me I want to go back to the beach. I'm done talking to you guys. me and Bobby trade true stories about things like crazy things that have happened. And also when people contact us, I mean, more Bobby and more guys like you, because I'm still fighting obscurity in the business, though I've thankfully made a living, is, what do what's your sort of your takeaway? You're a veteran of the business for 40, 50 years. You've always been working. What do you think? I don't think there's a secret, but do you have a mantra? Do you have any thoughts about it? How and why? And
I think it came originally from a Greek philosopher, maybe like a Greek general, but then it was other people throughout history that have said the same thing. They say, it's funny, but the more prepared I am, the luckier I get. And I remember when I first got up to LA, March 10th, 1975. I just remember random dates. I can't remember important ones, but just random ones. Um, I got started taking fencing classes, and Ralph, oh man, this is what happens when you just start losing. You don't think about it often enough. Faulkner, Ralph Faulkner was his name. He was an old timey guy that had been in silent films, and he broke his leg doing some stunts and scenes in the silent film, and he looked around to see how to rehabilitate his legs, get the strength back, and it was fencing. So he got into that, and he became the 1926 and 28 world champion at saber, and he did epee, foil, and saber. He was on the U.S. Olympic team, wound up guiding the women's Olympic team. They were the first ones to knock off the Hungarian women's fencing team in like a decade or more. And he also wound up being a great choreographer. He did Captain Blood, worked on Captain Blood and the Seahawk, and he did I think he did some work in Robin Hood also, Flynn's Robin Hood, but he also did one of the famous ones was Danny Kaye and Basil Rathbone, the Court Jester.
Portchester.
And what was the one with the guy that looked like the country gentleman English guy that looked like the king of that country, and they kidnap the king and they find this guy and put him in his place. Oh, famous. Ronald Colman played him. They made several remakes of it, and he played the captain of the guard, and then he doubled Ronald Colman. So in the long shots, he's doubling Ronald Colman and someone's doubling him as captain of the guard. In the close-ups, he's playing himself as the captain of the guard, and then Coleman is Coleman. So he was essentially, you could cut it together. So he's fighting himself, but he was amazing. And he taught Flynn and Rathbone. He taught all these guys. So I studied fencing with him. I had studied karate and I was still doing that. And I started doing other things, playing more tennis just so I could, be able to play tennis better. And I wanted to know how to do all kinds of things, just enough, at least well enough so that I could do it if I had to do it in a TV show or a movie or something.
Right.
The old master of none, but a jack of all trades, master of none. I got my pilot's license, and that actually came in handy on a film that I was shooting in Malaysia, where I had to jump. Peter Weller and I jumped into a plane, and I said, "You want me to start it up and at least taxi out of the scene?" They said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I got my pilot's license," even though it was a twin and I wasn't rated for it. But so I did. I just piloted up,
Right.
taxied it out. So things wind up being useful little tools, and taking dance class so you have good movement. Uh, and One thing I wish I had taken was uh, improv. I wish I'd done that. And I just barely did any of that, you know. But I think that's a good one to study just for keeping your mind facile. And if something happens in a scene, you won't get thrown. My son and all of his friends are all into that. And that would have been something really good. But I think that's good. Do as much as you can. And the other thing about uh, something that I was doing, but I met Anthony Hopkins, who still is one of my favorite actors. Um, and I was just doing an interview the day before, and someone asked who your favorite actors, and I had my regulars of Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda, and Cary Grant and Gary Cooper, the guys that did roles that I would like to do.
Mhm.
And then you have Melvin Douglas and Jimmy Cagney, and all these guys that they weren't roles that I would do. Spencer Tracy, I wouldn't necessarily do those kinds of roles. At least, it would be a totally different take. It would be more like Fonda or Stewart or somebody doing it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we were talking about who your favorites are, and I said, well, the current crop, of course, that would be Tony Hopkins. And the next day, he comes to Angie when we're taping an episode, and brings his parents. And so I got to meet him, and then they all went with us when we had our dinner break and go over to have dinner in the commissary. He came with us, and he was just incredible. And we would talk a little bit. And he said that what he did was he'd read the script and make a line up on the top of the script with a pencil on the outside, on the top of the cover. Then he'd read it again and make another line and read it again, make another line. He'd make 4 lines and then he'd make a circle around it like a little wheel. And so each one of those was 5 times that he'd read the script. And he would wait until he had 100 times. When he'd read the script 100 times, he'd just throw it away and say, okay, it's all in here. It's just totally infused in him. He
Wow.
knew everything that the script had to offer about the character. It would reveal itself. And I thought, gosh, that's exactly what I do. Except I would beat myself to death to try to get through 25 times. I've never been really, really that great for study. I As soon as we'd start rehearsal doing plays, I'd say, I just want to be out there doing it. I don't want to have to do all this part. And the older I got, the more I realized how, oh, this part is important. But that was a great key, was
Amazing.
being so well prepared, and that's kind of a big part of the whole thing. Just be very well prepared for it, and uh,
Be on time.
keep
Know
a
your.
great positive attitude. I don't know, Bobby, Richard, you guys. It's just, to me, it seems like you got to keep a really up and positive attitude about it, because if you let yourself get down, then you go wallowing in the abyss, the pit.
Well, that's the energy that you put out, and that is not going to get you where you need to go.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I know the energy that you need to go is you probably want to go back to the beach, and we've taken more time than we deserve.
It's so boring here. There's just, the same thing. Same waves keep coming in. The same waves. It just keep.
Oh, you poor guy. We really, oh, you poor thing.
Thank you,
Ladies,
Bob. It was
yeah.
great, man.
Bobby and I both used to race cars. I think you started racing before I did, but we
I
both
think I
raced
did,
cars, and
but
we were
yeah.
Yeah.
we were doing I did that Toyota Grand Prix, the Celica race. I called it the
Long
silly
Beach.
race.
Right, the Long Beach Grand Prix, yeah.
Yeah, and I won that a couple of times, but I was on one lap from pulling away and winning it the third time when um, Ted who's the ooh Ted Nugent. He came. He was so out of control. He was all over the place. They have a blue flag, and the blue flag is you're holding up the cars behind you. A faster car is coming up behind you. Move over and let him pass.
Exactly.
And when they said, but you had blue flags, you're supposed to let him pass. And he said, why would I pull over and let some football player pass me? And then this was in the LA Times, and it said, obviously he was confusing Robert Hayes, the actor, with Bob Hayes, the football player. And so as we were coming down at the end of the backside, that long straightaway back there, came into that right hand turn, and he came in. I saw his eyes this big. His hands were turned like this because he crossed over. He was trying to turn the car, but it was just skidding right into me, and he smashed me into the wheel, the stack of tires right over on the other side of the track.
Oh, man.
That stopped him so he could make the turn. And then I couldn't get out because it jammed up the gearbox and I couldn't get it into reverse. So what I did was I rammed it in first gear and let it bounce back until I bounced out enough to be able to go on and try to catch up to him. By then, a bunch of cars had passed, and I wound up coming in. I don't know where I was, third or fourth or fifth or something, and he won. And their whole reasoning for it all in the end was, so what? They're just actors
Oh,
that
breaking the rules. And if he was just, he knocked a guy out of the race, so what? They're just actors. So otherwise, that would have been my third time to win that.
I used another guy's car once to stay on the track. Worked great.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. There was a guy when we were racing the IMSA SECA races, the Escort Series, and
Yeah.
with the other one. And guy Pat Pearson was on the team that I was on, and he was a really good driver. And we were in. I think you were in Corvettes. I think that was in the GT class,
That sounds right.
and we were in the B class. We had a Nissan 200 SX turbo, and that was the B class, and it was a sweet little car. And you came screaming up behind him. Now, Richard, when you're driving a car and someone's coming up behind you, you point to the side you want them to pass. So you'd point over to your right saying, pass me on that side. Or you'd point to the left, pass me on that side. Well, Pat was out in the middle, and Bobby, you told me the story. Bobby comes up behind him and he's right in the middle of the track. And so Bobby sees this. And that was take your choice. And you were laughing the whole time, said that was the first time anyone had ever done that.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, man. Oh, God, it's so great to hang out with you.
Yeah. Well, one of these days I'll be back on the mainland. Maybe then I get to see you guys in person.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, man, we could go to In-N-Out.
Yes. I've got a card.
All right.
Thanks so much, man. So great to see you. Thanks for your time and all the great stories and the great advice. Gentleman and a scholar, Robert Hayes.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks. This is great talking with you. I appreciate it. It was so fun seeing you both. And Bobby's always been like a great one to me. Just like one of those jewels. That's one of the things that people don't realize is how really terrific an actor he is. And you've done so many things that show that.
Oh, thanks, man.
But
Well, coming back at you, pal.
well, let's
Yeah.
just go prove it some more.
Yeah, let's do
That's
it,
the
man.
plan. We're
Yes.
rounding up everybody. We're going to get the band back together.
Yeah, got to do it fast. I'm studying to kind of try to remember lines is really getting harder and harder.
Cue cards, man. Cue cards.
There you go. Or the little Marlon Brando in the
Yeah,
ear.
earwig.
Right? Yeah.
All right, man. Hang in there.
All right, put up the cue card for the end of the show. Okay, there it is.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes an island hopping episode of the Party Nerds podcast. I'm Richard Gabai, Robert Carradine, and the legendary Robert Hayes. Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys.